So today we are going to discuss about the parameters that goes into the design traffic. So in the last lecture, what we had seen is this formula of design traffic, that how you actually find out this design traffic, which is one of the input for your pavement design. So you have this straightforward looking formula, what you see at first, that 365 into all that terms. But I told you that each term in this, it has some significance. Okay. So now we will look into it, that what is that. We had discussed that what is this capital N, what is this capital A. Okay. And what was left is, I think, that I had told you that we need to find out the traffic which is there after the completion of construction. But somehow we only have the traffic count with us, which is there when before starting the project, or even before starting the design phase. Whatever is the traffic, we count it. So you have to project that, and for projecting the traffic, say suppose we had taken an example, I guess, that 2021 or 2020 I've counted the traffic in November, and in June 2021 my construction will be completed, and then your road will be used by the vehicles. So in this gap of say 7 months, whatever is there, so in 7 months the traffic is going to increase, obviously, if not to a quite large extent, but a few vehicles is going to increase. So we need to project that, and for that we use this formula over here that we have, that is how to find out this A is that P into 1 plus R raised to X. Now if you see, this is just a simple growth factor that we have applied. So R is that growth factor, okay, and then X is the number of years for completion of construction. So here we have 7 months. So 7 months, if you convert it to years, so whatever are is that number, okay. So that you will consider as X, and then P will be the traffic count which I carry out in this November 2020. Okay. So that's how you use this formula, and then you come to that A value. Okay. Then the next term is X. X is nothing but what I told you, that number of years between the last count and year of completion of construction. So in this example that we are seeing, the last count was done in November 2020, and the year of completion of construction, so that's June 2021. So in between, whatever is the number of years, okay, here it is in point something, 0 point something, but generally for big highways you have 2 years of construction period, or 3 years even. So there you need to have this clear idea about this term X. Okay. Then capital D is something called lane distribution factor. Okay. Now what is that? We will cover it when we deal with the design actual numericals, or before that also, the next slide what we will see. So in that also I'll try to explain what is this D and what is this F. Okay. So this both will keep for now, for the next slide or next lectures. That is what is lane distribution factor and what is vehicle damage factor. Okay. And this last term N, small n, it is nothing but design life in years. So we have seen that your flexible pavements, they are generally construct or designed for 15 years. Now this is not a hard and fast rule, but generally they are designed for 15 years. It can also be for 10 years or for 20 years. Okay. So whatever is this design life, that you have to take in this formula. Okay. Now I told you that you just have this one formula, and it might look to you that it's very simple. What you have to do is you have to just enter the values of all these terms, A, D, F, R, X, P, and all these terms, and then you have to just give an input to this formula, and you will get the design traffic. But whatever, or the it may be very easy to listen whatever I just narrated now, but it is very long process or a tedious process to actually implement it in field. Okay. So in field, what you do is the last one is the R, that is growth factor. Okay. So in coming back to our discussion, in field what you do is for each of this term, for each of this A, X, D, F, N, and R, you have some kind of survey that you have to do. Okay, just for N you don't need a survey, you just need a contract agreement. But for other terms you need to do some survey, and from that you have to collect that data. So whatever numericals we will be solving on this particular topic of design traffic, in that I will be giving you the terms or design values, not design value actually. I will give you the values of A, D, F, N, X, whatever it is, and then you will just input it in your formula. A bit of variation might be there, and then you will get a design traffic. But actually on field, you have to perform surveys for each kind or each value, and then you have to extract the data. So in this table, what I have shown in one single glance is these are the input parameters, what goes into that formula of n is equal to 365, okay, that formula. So these are the input parameters. Then I've mentioned the units, and then this is the important thing that I mentioned, which survey you need to perform for that particular parameter to be found. And the last row is the corresponding clause in IRC 37 2012. So I told you in the last lecture that I'll not go into the details of the clauses, because then it will be, I'll take 10-20 lectures just for discussing the clauses of the code. So I'll not go into that detail. I'll leave it to you just by giving you the clause number. It's up to you to read these clauses and then you understand it, because I'll be explaining the main parts of it. So starting with the first input parameter, that is P. Now P we had seen in this formula of A is equal to P into 1 plus R raised to X. So that P was nothing but the count of the last count that you had with you for traffic. So again, we have seen this in detail, that you count that traffic using classified traffic volume count, okay, CTVC, and from that whatever is the commercial vehicles, specifically those having the gross weight of 30 kilometer and more, so that we use, or those we consider as the vehicles which are going to actually damage your road. Okay, so we find out the traffic in terms of this CVPD, that is commercial vehicles per day, and for that the survey, it is traffic volume count survey. Okay, so now we have discussed in detail what is this traffic volume count survey, so I'll not go into details of this. So I leave it to you that read this clause 4.1, and then you'll come to know all the things that you need to know about this parameter P. Okay, obviously when we will solve the numericals, we'll also you'll get a better idea of it then at that time as well. Okay, but for now you can just read this clause 4.1. Then the next input parameter is small x, that is years. In years, that is the period of construction. So how much time it requires to construct that particular road. It may be a highway, national highway, state highway, expressway, or any road. So this X, you get it directly from the contract or the concession agreement. So whatever is the agreement between the two parties, the one who is constructing the road and the one who is paying that contractor to construct the road. So between them, there is a contract, and in that contract, it is specifically mentioned that you have to complete the work or complete the construction in so and so years or so and so months. So that count or that value of X you will directly get from the contract agreement, and if you see there is no clause for it, because directly it's a value that will depend on the quantum decided by the client, and then accordingly the work will be done. Okay, so the X value directly you can get from that contract agreement. Then the next parameter is N, small n, that is the design life of the road. Okay, there is a difference between X and N. Obviously, X is number of years, N is also number of years, but small x, it is the number of years required to complete the construction of the road, and small n, it is the design life of the road. So for how many years you are intending to design that road. So it may be 15 years, it may be 10 years, or if it's a rigid payment, it may also be a 30 years period. But as we are seeing only, or we are focusing on flexible payment for now, we'll restrict ourselves to the maximum value of 15 years. So just remember this as a thumb rule, that 15 this is the design life generally for flexible payment for a highway, if I talk about. Okay, and again, this value, it is specified in your contract or the concession agreement, or sometimes in the IRC code. Now the IRC code, it will not be 37/2012 for this particular value. What you have is, suppose you want to construct a 2-lane road or a 4-lane road or a 6-lane road. So IRC has different codes for 2-laning, for 4-laning, 6-laning. So you have manual kind of thing. Okay? We call it a 2-lane manual or a 4-lane manual. So that is also code, and in that code, then they have specified this design life of your that particular road. Okay, so from that you get the value of n. Then next term is the small r, which is the growth rate. Okay, now why we need this growth rate? As I told you, the example that we have been discussing, now we'll just extend that example a bit. That November 2020, I counted the traffic, and then in June 2021, my road will be constructed completely, and then I'll open it to traffic. And I have designed this road to sustain it for, say, next 15 years. So from 2021, June 2021 to next 15 years, so it will be 2036. Okay, so till June 2036, that road is going to serve the purpose for whatever it is designed and constructed. So obviously, you have the traffic count only for this November 2020. You will first project it for this June 2021. Then only you will get that value of capital A, and then you will use that value to estimate the traffic which is going to be there at the end of year 2036. Okay. So now this projection, what you do for that, you will need something called this traffic growth rate, which is the small r value. Okay. And how you will get is this traffic growth rate. If you see the clause in IRC 37, so you have clause 4.2. So directly they have mentioned that you need to do the survey and project the traffic, and the survey that you need to do is this origin destination survey. Now again, this we have seen in detail in our unit number 3. So what goes into origin destination survey, you can just have a look at that video. And then along with that, you have some thing called commodity survey. So in origin and destination survey, or OD survey as the name goes, in that OD survey itself, we had seen that you ask number of questions, and in that, if you are interviewing a goods vehicle, so you also note down that what is the type of goods it is carrying. So just if you extract that much data, that okay, this is the vehicle, suppose it's a 2-axle truck, and it is carrying suppose wooden furniture, so that is the commodity it is carrying. So such type of data what you extract, that is nothing but the commodity survey. So OD survey, commodity survey, along with some secondary data, that will give you the enough data or the input to calculate the growth factors. Okay. And this growth factor, now I told you that you need to have growth factor for June 2036, but directly you don't calculate for that. You calculate growth factor for every 5 year, or maybe even every year. Okay. So every 5 year or every 1 year, what will be the change in the growth factor that you find out. For example, just if I show you, just a minute. Again, let me just search quickly. Growth factors. Yeah. So I hope this screen is visible. So example for this growth rate. Now, though it's a very small unit, you need it in decimal. So in IRC code, they have mentioned that you have to take the growth rate or calculate the growth rate from the data that you have collected from the survey. And if not, then you can take some arbitrary values of 7.5% or 5%. Now, these values, they are just given as a guideline. They are never used in actual field. Okay? In actual field, if you just do a pavement design, and if you consider these value of 7.5 and 5, directly there will be a question from the client or any governing body over there that how did you came up with this percentage. So we never use this in actual field, though you will find that when we solve numericals, you will find these values a common one, that is 7.5 or 5, but that is only for academic purpose. For actual purpose, you never use those values. What we do is, as I told you, that we do that OD survey, and then we also have the commodity survey and some other type. So in the discussion of OD survey in unit number 3, I had shown you this OD matrix, if you recall. So again, this is an example taken from the project that we were discussing as a case study, the Satna Shankargarh Road in MP UP. So for that, at one of the location, this was the OD survey data, and this is the matrix that we have formed, 66 by 66 matrix. And then we have collected some other data as well, other data as in the data of population forecasting, data of per capita income, agricultural produce data, mining and quarrying data, because that area which we were considering MPUP border, there a lot of limestone mining was done. Okay, so that's why this parameter was taken. Then manufacturing, industrial growth. So all these are the secondary parameters. So in this table, what you saw, this secondary data. So this secondary data is nothing but the data that you collect from this, or data you collect related to all these different terms: population, per capita income, even GDP comes into picture in that. Okay. So this is the secondary data. So you use this OD matrix, you use this secondary data. Okay. Then you have something called elasticity values. For now, you don't need to know about that because that will be a different topic altogether. But just remember that there is something called elasticity values, okay, which are taken from the road development plan according to the vehicle, and then you come up with such growth rate values. Now, if you see here, now this is for passenger vehicle, the location, this is the location of the count, and then this is the mode, that is this growth rate is for two-wheeler, okay, and the time period is, just a minute. Yeah, sorry. So this table, what you see here, so this is just for two-wheelers, and this is the location where the OD survey was done, and the time period, if you see here, it's 2016 to 21. So I told you, growth year, though we designed that road for say 15 years or 10 years, but we find out the growth rate for every 5 years as a standard practice. You can do it for every year also, but then there is some calculations which go on over here, and you can see the growth rate values over here in this column. Okay, and what you see is this zone. So if you recall, I had told you that we had divided this whole project area into 66 zones, and then you need to find out growth rate for each zone. Okay? So likewise, all such calculations are done. You can see a lot of tables over here. So what I wanted to show you is that for each type of vehicle, okay, you need to find out the growth rate. So for three-wheeler, for car, okay, similarly for LCV goods vehicle, then you have it for 2-axle truck, a 3-axle truck. For every category of the or every type of vehicle, you need to find out the growth rate. And then finally, all this growth rate values, you can consolidate it over here. So just let me show you the end one. Okay. So for this project that we have been discussing for a long time now, the Satna Shankargarh Road. So this project, it was intended that we were doing the survey in 2016. Okay. So that will be the base period. Then after that, it will take some time for construction and all. So we had projected the traffic for, if you see here, 20, 50, 156. So 2056 tak, we had calculated the number of vehicles that are going to be there, or we are expecting that these will be the number of vehicles. And we had, if you see, vehicle type wise, we had done the analysis that what for two-wheeler, what will be the growth rate, for car, what will be the growth rates. Okay, so it's that complicated. So that is what I was telling about, that though you will see that it's just a single term, but to find that single term also, you need to have a lot of calculations at the background. Okay, so no, it's not as easy as it sounds like. Okay. So that is this growth rate R. Now we'll see that also. I'll show you that why you need a growth rate for each category of road, each category of vehicle. Then you have this last two terms, that is D is the lane distribution factor. Now what is this lane distribution factor? So you know that you can have different lane configuration, as in you can have a two-lane road, in that maybe one lane is for upgoing and another is for downgoing. Okay. And it may be divided also, it may be undivided also. Divided as in there is a median in between, a partition in between, which is called a median, or it is undivided. Undivided as in you just have road markings. Okay. And this is the undivided two-lane carriageway. Okay. So depending on what is the lane configuration, whether it's a 2-lane, 3-lane, 4-lane, or a single lane, you will have variation in this parameter D. Okay. Now what I mean by that is, if I suppose consider these two configurations, that it's 2-lane, which is undivided. Okay. This UD is nothing but undivided, and this is 2-lane divided. Okay. Just for example purpose, or for making you understand, I am taking these two configuration. You can have any configuration over here. So you have 2-lane undivided, 2-lane divided. Now when I say that one lane is for upgoing traffic, another is for downgoing traffic, in both the conditions or both the cases, okay, one lane is for upgoing, another is for downgoing vehicles. So now if suppose there is a vehicle over here which is going in up direction, there is one vehicle which is going in down direction, and then you have another vehicle over here which is going in up direction. So now the placement of this vehicle, or how these vehicles will be distributed over the lanes, that will depend that how much width you give them for moving laterally. Okay. So if I say that you have a single lane road, and on that single lane road you are supposed to have traffic in both the direction, so that traffic will be more of a channelized one. Okay. Because it's a single lane, it's just 3.5 meter, and in that also you have a two-way traffic. So there will be a single line for upgoing vehicles, there will be a single line for downgoing vehicles. So in that case, the movement of the vehicle, lateral movement of the vehicle will be restricted, as in the vehicle will only move in one direction. It will not go left or right, or it will not try to overtake in that case. Okay. So that is what is meant by the lateral placement or the lane distribution. So that is where this factor comes into picture, that is capital D, lane distribution factor. Okay. So if the same, now if I say that suppose there are 10 vehicles and they are traveling on a single lane road, okay, and 5 vehicles are traveling in up direction and 5 vehicles are traveling in down direction. Okay. So as it's a single lane, those 5 vehicles on left and 5 vehicles on the right, they will follow a more or less a single path. Okay, they will not deviate much on the left or right side. But now if I say that same 10 vehicles, they are there on this configuration that we are considering, 2-lane undivided. So now those 10 vehicles have the freedom that they can move anywhere in these 2 lanes, even though we have restricted that it's a down direction lane and the left one is the up direction lane. But then too, we are saying that it's an undivided carriageway. So there is no real partition in between. You just have a road marking. So those 10 vehicles are free to move. If they want to overtake, they can also overtake. They can use a little bit of a lane over here, and then they can travel. But if I say that again, those 10 vehicles, I am making them use this 2-lane divided carriageway. Now again, there is a restriction now that if they have to use a divided carriageway, then there is a physical barrier in between. And now specifically, if they want to overtake, they have to overtake within their lane itself. They can't use the other lane which is on the right side. Okay. So the number of lanes you increase, the more you are giving the freedom to the driver to go left or right and sway laterally and then use the road. Okay. So you need to keep a check that suppose if it's a 4-lane road and then you have 1,000 vehicles, or if you have a 2-lane road and you have 1,000 vehicles, so there will be a difference in utilization of the road space, and that difference is going to directly affect the use of that road, and basically it is going to affect your pavement design. Okay. So to consider that variation, we have this factor D, capital D, that is lane distribution factor. Now again, to completely understand this, you need to read this clause 4.5 of IRC 37/2012, and from that you will understand very clearly that how this lane distribution factor is considered. So in that clause in IRC, you will see that for each lane configuration, that single carriageway, dual carriageway, or undivided, divided, single lane, 2-lane, you have different values in decimal. Okay. So directly you can adopt those values from the code itself. And then the last term, that is F, that is the vehicle damage factor, okay, VDF. It is also called as short form VDF. So this is again just a small factor in decimal, but the calculation behind it, it is quite a considerable amount of calculation. And the data that we get is from this axle load survey. Okay. Now, what is this axle load survey? I'll just take a few minutes to explain that. So in axle load survey, what you have is, from the name itself, you'll understand that you know what is the axle of a vehicle. And what we are doing in the survey is we are finding out how much is the load on the particular axle of that vehicle. And for that, what we do is we have such kind of setup that it is sort of a random thing that you do in the OD survey, that you randomly stop some vehicles and you ask question. So similarly in axle load survey, you randomly stop some vehicles and you weigh their load, wheel load. Okay. Now why wheel load? If you consider, suppose in this figure, in this photograph you see, this is the, just follow the cursor, the cross, white cross that you see on the screen. So this is the load cell, what we have here. Okay, it's just like a weighing machine, but a very compact one. It is just the weighing pad you have, and you can see this wire. It is connected to the display. Okay. So there is someone sitting at the side of the road, and the display is connected to this weighing pad. And what is done is uh, generally axle load survey. It is done only for commercial vehicles whose load, you say, gross vehicle weight is more than that 30 kilonewton value. So for those vehicles only, we do this axle load survey. And what we do is we stop this vehicle randomly, and we tell the driver to just move the wheel on this weighing pad one by one. Okay, so this is the front axle or steering axle. So one wheel you will place over the pad, you will note down the reading, then you will, this is the rear axle for a truck, two axle truck. So again, you will do this. And if you have two tires over here, what you see, so both the tires, you will tell the driver that you should place the truck in such a way that both the tires should be placed on this weighing pad. Okay. And in this way, you will go on taking the load values. Okay. So now whatever is the load or weight that you have taken, that is the weight of half of the truck or half of the axle, because you have taken only the weight on one side. If you multiply it by 2, you will get the total axle weight or axle load. Okay. So these are some of the photographs that you can see for axle load survey. Now you see that's a long vehicle. So the same vehicle, we measured the front axle and then the rear axle. So in this way, whatever is the number of wheels, so if you see here, in this, the rear axle, there are 4 rear axles. One is in single and other are in tridem. So for that also, each wheel you have to take it on the weighing pad and you have to weigh it. So in this way, you do the axle load survey. And what we are interested is in the data, how you actually get the data. So here if you see, now this is the axle load survey. It's not for the project that we are discussing. It's for another project in MP. It's Bayora Devas is the name of the road or highway. So this is the typical axle load survey sheet what you have. So you can see you have a timestamp over here. Vehicle number, though the column is written over here, but it's very difficult to note down the number of the vehicle, registration number. Okay. Then you have vehicle type. Now in this vehicle type, you can see we have done some coding, that is 3T to 4T. Okay. So this is the number of axles, that is 2 axle, 3 axle, or 3 axle in tandem, or 3 axle in tridem. So just before we proceed further, I'll tell you what is that tridem and tandem that I'm talking about. So if I just draw some top view of trucks without the chassis, just if I draw the axle arrangement, so I can have one arrangement like this, in which you have the front axle which has single wheels on both the sides, and you have a rear axle which have dual wheel on both the sides. Okay. Or you can have a front axle, and in the rear axle you can have 2 axles, but now both the axles, they are very closely spaced. Okay. So there is no much separation in between the two. So that is nothing but this is called, or this assembly what you have, it is known as a tandem assembly. Okay. A tandem axle is nothing but 2 axles which are closely spaced. Those are known as tandem assembly. So this is, you can say, we coded it as 2T. So 2 axles in tandem. So that is 2T. So in photograph, if I want to show you, so this is something what a tandem axle looks like. Okay, so you have 2 wheels or 2 axles which are very closely spaced. So whatever is the weight that these axles will take, so these axles will take the weight together. So they are in tandem. So similarly, a tridem axle, I'll show you just here. This is the tridem axle. Now in this photograph, what you see, the 3 wheels that are closely spaced. So this is an example of a tridem axle. Okay. So in this way, you have to code all your vehicle types, that whatever is the configuration. We also noted the cargo type. And then this is the important, half of the axle load in tons, what you see here is a ton. So half of the axle load as in whatever is the actual reading, you can see that reading we have written over here. So this is the first axle, second, third, and you can see the fourth, fifth, sixth, it's 0. But we have written it because it was a 3T type, so that is 3 axle category. So the first axle was steering axle and the rest was the tandem axles. Okay. So in likewise, you have to note down the readings of all the vehicles or whatever are the vehicles that you are going to survey. Okay, and then you have to note down something called this spacing between front and rear, if it is greater or less than 4.5. Now this you'll come to know when we discuss in detail about the rigid pavement, but for now just remember that there is something called this spacing between front and rear. Now what is this spacing? Again, if I show you the photographs, and if I show you one complete vehicle, yeah. So this is a truck, and if you see, this is the front axle and this is the rear axle. So the spacing between this front and rear axle, that also you have to measure. Okay, and if it is greater than or less than 4.5 meter, so you have to enter that type of input over here. So you can see here it's lesser as in less than 4.5. You have here greater as in it's greater than 4.5. So this is the way in which you do the axle load survey. Okay. So now you have, or we have discussed all the terms or all the parameters that go in this formula of n is equal to 365 into 1 plus r raised to n minus 1 upon r into ADF. So now I leave it to you for today that go through this IRC code and see whatever is this clauses, and in the next lecture we will solve some numericals related to this design traffic. Okay, so we'll stop here for today.